Hey there, welcome back. It's Dan here from Your Guitar Academy, of course. And today I want to talk about a question that came up on one of my recent live chats in the YGA Club. And the question was something like this: I feel like I should be better than I am right now. Or I feel like after this much time, I should be better. Something along those lines. And it really sparked my interest. It was such a, this is the question. It was thrown at me live and I had to answer. And I wanted to just come away from that session and just spend a bit more time thinking about it and put a YouTube video together like this. Because it's such a common question. I think hopefully you're sitting there going, that rings a bell. I've definitely thought that before. I know other people have kind of had these conversations in their mind, and often, especially through, all the teachers, all the students that we have here at Your Guitar Academy, we definitely hear this statement more than once. So it's obviously a common thread, and I wanted to address it. And I want to address it in a couple of different ways. I want to talk about not only practical steps to work through that kind of thought process, but also just why that is fundamentally an invalid thought process as it is. So let me just start with that. Basically, what this question, what it shows to me, what it immediately kind of rings true, is that this is an expectation that you're putting on yourself. So if the question is something like, why am I not better than I am now after playing 2 years? Then fundamentally what I'm hearing there is that you've somehow, from somewhere, possibly from what you've seen online, from other players around you, whatever it might be, you've put an expectation on yourself that basically doesn't need to be there. That's the first thing. This is an expectation. And so obviously as soon as there's an expectation, there's some resistance, because you're expecting to be further along than you are. But who's to say that you should be at that point? Not this person over here, not that person over there, just you. You're putting that expectation on yourself. And I totally understand that. I'm not saying that it's something you can be like, oh yeah, I am doing that. It's so common, it's everywhere, because look at the world we live in. I just have to open up our Instagram account and it would suggest to me that every single guitar player in the world is incredible. I just throw through our Instagram and I can see just it seems like hundreds and hundreds of unbelievable guitar players, and quite often they're quite young. They've got skills that have just far surpassed anything I've done, and I'm just sitting there. I'm often left just thinking, I should be better than this. I should be better than I am, because look at those guys. Now, of course, that's comparison, isn't it? That's us sitting there comparing ourselves directly to them, which is, again, a dangerous thing to get into. And this isn't just guitar. This is life in general. We all know this, but it's hard to not do it. Just because of the world we live in. And I'm telling you that those guitar players on those platforms, they're the 0.01% of guitar players on the planet. They're the ones that, and I want to just say this out loud right now. Good on them. I mean, they've put the time in. They've got to that point. There's no taking away from those people. They have dedicated their time, their lives, everything to that skill set. And wow, does it sound amazing. They have absolutely crushed it. And I feel so happy for them that they have done that. But there's also a part of me that is like, jealous. Feeling like, why can't I do that? But please do remember that to get to that kind of level, the time commitment alone is enormous. They're often younger because they have that time, that spare time. If you're like myself, you've got a job. For me personally, it's an entrepreneurial job, so I'm always thinking about the job. I've got kids, got family life, got everything else to deal with, the social life, friends, everything, whatever it is. It's all stuff that kind of fills up my time, and I'm happy it does. I love that. But to say that I could sit down and practice for hours on end is very tough. So there's a couple of key things there to kind of take away. One, expectation. Expectation is I would say, and this is something I'm working on generally in my life, is unnecessary. You don't have to have it. It's great to have the drive. It's great to want to get better. But to fundamentally always have an expectation of yourself can create a fair bit of resistance if you're not hitting that expectation all the time. You don't need that. Remember, the guitar is fun. It's music, it's exciting, it's wonderful, it's magical, it's something that should be inspiring, not something that you're constantly feeling like you're battling against. By doing that, you're not going to get anywhere. The motivation is going to constantly be going. So if you lose the expectation, if you imagine you drop that, don't allow comparison to affect you. Just look at those things and be like, great, they're doing amazing. Or if you want to, just don't look. I know that's very hard these days, with YouTube, with Instagram, with Facebook, with everything, but it's an option. But it's that comparison that leads to that kind of expectation. And I can tell you this, hand on heart, absolutely, from every single student I've ever met, whether it's been one-to-one, online, via our YGA Club, whatever it is, everyone learns differently. Everyone learns at their own pace. And the people that I think have got it the most are the people that just focus on their own journey, their own pacings, And that's something I'm going to talk about in a second, how to kind of practically work through this so you feel like you've got kind of steps to go through. But that's the first thing I'd say. Try and drop that expectation. Try not to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others, because really and truly, everyone learns differently. You have no idea what those other people have been through to get to that point where they're at now, and therefore there's absolutely no point comparing yourself to them. So let's just talk practicalities in terms of how you can push past this kind of thought process and basically drop it, essentially, in aid to kind of move away from the idea that I should be better than I am. Anytime I hear in my mind the word should, I'm instantly aware. This is just an expectation. This is not reality. This is I don't need to think or worry about this, right? But we can have really practical ways to kind of work through this. This is something we work through a lot in the YGA Club. And the first thing I would say that's absolutely crucial is having a pathway. Because one of the reasons this kind of pops up a lot, this question and this concern, let's say, is because there's so much online. There's so many guitar lessons, and it's really hard for you to know just intrinsically as a learning guitar player where you're at, where you should be, all these kind of things, right? That's why we don't concern ourselves with it. And that's why you probably find yourself bouncing around so many guitar lessons. There's literally millions, right, online. You do a bit of that, can't quite get that together, do a bit of that, little bits here and there. And along that way, I'm absolutely sure you're making some progress. But again, there is some kind of expectation. And I know I'm saying fundamentally drop that expectation, but let's also realize that we are human and it's very hard to completely do that. So we're going to have some strategies to kind of work through it as well. So having a pathway, which is what we provide you guys on the YGA Club, just really kind of drops the whole should I be doing this thing, right? We don't need that anymore. Just get rid of that, because myself or the guys in my team who I trust, who are the best guitar tutors on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, they have given you this pathway. This is the pathway. This is for you, and you just follow it. So suddenly, there's some confidence. There's some like, well, do you know what? This is roughly where I am. I can feel that. Like, this stuff isn't instantly super hard, but I'm like tightening up some bolts here. I'm refining some of my techniques. This is great. And you can see there's a gradual progression. You've got your pathway. You can go through that as slow or as fast as you like. At least you're sitting there knowing, look, when I have got that time to play the guitar, I sit down and I'm going to play this and I'm going to go through that sequence. And we're always improving that over at the YGA Club. I think it's probably the most important thing in terms of just quietening, I'm going to go with it, the mind when it comes to the doubting, should I, am I doing the right thing, all of this stuff. Am I as good as I should be by this point? All these same questions, right? We can kind of quiet them by at least knowing, look, I've got this pathway. I just follow that. All I do is I follow that. All this other stuff's going to come up around that, but fundamentally I know that I can just kind of follow that. Alongside that, something I'd highly recommend, and again, something we provide on the YGA Club, is mentorship. So actually being able to talk to, chat to, book a lesson with a tutor that's a professional mentor, i.e. someone that's been on that journey. And it's quite simply, if this is the journey, the big old line, then you're here, let's say, for example, and this mentor is here. So they've been on this same pathway. They've done the same stuff you've done. They've worked through the same battles. They've had the same doubts, the same questions, but they're now up here in their journey. And that's so useful, because you talk to them, you ask them about this stuff, and they're sitting there going, yep, I remember that, and this is what I did to get through that. So having that mentor, it's not just about having someone to necessarily show you, flaws in your technique and all of that. Of course, they're there to be your guitar teacher, but as a mentor, they're also there to remind you that this is all part of that learning process. Going through all of this is all part of it. Okay, if you're willing to learn and you're willing to work through it, it's all there. So that combination of the pathway and the mentorship, which, as I said, and this isn't just like a shameless plug for the YGA Club, you can get this elsewhere if you want, but we have that there. That's something that I'm passionate about for any guitar player trying to, make something of themselves as a player. Anyone who's committed to it, those are two things that are massively important. And the final thing I'll say on that is, are you actually doing the practice? So this is another solid thing that will help with those doubts and those questions and all that stuff. Lose the comparison, lose the expectations, and just be like, well, look, I am practicing. I'm doing this practice. Are you actually sitting down? I mean, there's no way I'm going to sit here and say that you have to practice for this amount of time. Don't worry about that at all. Just say to yourself, what time do I have? It might be 10 minutes a day, it might be 20 minutes a day, it might be 2 hours a day, whatever. It depends on where you are in your life. We've got a lot of retired students who have just a lot more time and they can put it into the guitar. Fantastic. But whatever that time amount is for me at the moment in my life, outside of just being around all these guitars, if I actually practice time, literally 10 minutes a day is probably what I get. But I do it. And that's the key thing, that you commit to yourself. I'm going to do, okay, I know I've only got 10 minutes. I know I'd love to have more time. And at some point in the future, you will have more time. But right now, that's what you got. So just do that. That's where the pathway comes in handy as well, because of course, at least in that 10 minutes, you're tackling something that's going to progress you gradually. And of course, if you can put more time in, there's no doubt about it, you put more quality practice time and you will progress faster. If you have less practice time, at least make it quality, and then you will be progressing. And then go back to what I said at the start. Remind yourself, okay, this is where I am with my journey at the moment. I have no expectation. I'm just gonna play, I'm gonna enjoy it, I'm gonna love it. I'm not comparing myself to Joe Bloggs over there. You don't know, he might have 5 hours of practice a day and you can only manage 10 minutes. How can you compare to that, okay? So we don't have the comparison, but at least you're saying to yourself, do you know what? Even though it is 10 minutes, I'm gonna do that practice. Even if it is half an hour, I'm gonna do that practice. And then just do it. Find a time, make it work. All of these things combined really will help you kind of push past this doubt, this concern, this question. And the last thing I wanna say on it, guys, the absolute last thing is that, and this is gonna sound cheesy and horrible, but I know it's worked for me, it's worked in my life, it works for a lot of people, is just truly try and be kind to yourself about this. Remind yourself regularly how far you've come. Remind yourself every time you do that 10-minute practice, give yourself a pat on the back. Well done, nailed that. I did 10 minutes of practice, okay? It's not gonna change the world, but 10 minutes over the course of 3 months is gonna start changing things, okay? 10 minutes a day over the course of 3 months will start changing things. It's all there, and that, that being kind of kind to yourself, literally saying you're doing a great job, you're doing well, and reminding yourself it's fun. If at the end of the day you just get a little bit, you have times where you just get a bit bogged down and some of those expectations all come back in, just take a little break, just remind yourself, go and buy a new pedal, go and buy a guitar, enter our YJ lottery to get a guitar, watch some pedal stuff on YouTube, just go and watch a band where there's a great guitar player, do all this kind of stuff in those times that remind you, oh man, that's why I love doing this. What that guy did up on that stage or on that video, that's why I love doing what I do here. That's why I love the guitar. You remind yourself of that and then come back and try and apply everything that I've said in the rest of the video in a kind way. So I hope that helps, guys. I just wanted to get that out because I thought it was a really good question from someone, and I'm sure a lot of you are sitting there asking that to yourself on a daily basis. And I hope in some way that helps. And yes, please do let me know, leave some comments. I'd love to hear from you guys what your experience with this is, how you push through that kind of thing. We can really all learn from each other in this community. So make sure you do write some comments underneath. Let us know. I think we can start to learn. I can learn a lot from you guys as well, how you've done it, how you've gone through it. We can really all kind of work through this together. And if you are interested, of course, then you can go ahead and check out our YGA Club. The links will all be in the description. And there you'll be able to kind of get access to your pathway, your mentorship, all of that kind of stuff, plus a whole lot more. So anyway, I hope you have a great time, and I'll see you again for another video.